Hey, Sotenico here for Godlovescomics, and this is Miracleman, Episode 3, Book 1, A Dream of Flying. There you see the cover. The cover of the actual collection was apparently done by Alan Davis. For some reason I didn't know that, but that is the case, and this is also Alan Davis. Beautiful cover. Beautiful colors as well. And you can see the original story, Out of the Dark, art by Alan Davis, was from Warrior number 9, January 1983. Series started in 1982. And all of the art, in fact, is by Alan Davis until you get down to that 1989 story by Gary Leach, which we probably will not cover here. It's out of sequence. Beautiful page. Out of the dark, he is coming, a burning man of power and perfect beauty. That ultimately is why they must kill him. That ultimately is why they can't. He'll come from the south. Since we don't know exactly how powerful the monster is, I suggest we deploy 2 specialists near the perimeter. What I'm suggesting is a surprise attack. Who knows? Might prove successful? Perhaps the monster needs to concentrate to maintain his invulnerability. Do you expect it to work, Sir Dennis? No, gentlemen. Frankly, I do not. It's like, this guy suffered some burns. Out of the dark, he is surfacing. His stomach hurts. He is still alive. There's a strange blue constellation and a black and empty sky. It's the sapphire smile of Evelyn Cream. Ah, Mr. Moran, you're awake. I should imagine that is quite a relief. My name is Evelyn Cream. You may remember me. I was the black gentleman with the sapphire teeth who shot you in a lift recently. Tranquilizer bullets. This is of course why your tummy is sore rather than entirely absent. I was paid to kill you. You see that by being my nature, of my profession, and yet, wonders of wonders, here you are still alive. Would you like to know why? Fact. You were capable of becoming a splendid creature called Miracleman, at the merest utterance of the what we shall term a magic word, hence the regrettable gag. Fact. You gained this capability in 1954. This was as a result of an experiment termed Project Zarathustra, carried out by the branch of the Air Force intelligence known as the Spook Show. Fact. In 1963, this organization, for reasons unknown, decided to terminate the experiment by destroying you and the 2 similarly gifted companions with an A-bomb. They thought they had succeeded. They had not. In 1982, you resurfaced. At this point, I was hired to uncover your true identity and then kill you. Fact. You were totally astounded by this information. Sir Dennis, aren't we overreacting? Are we certain that Cream has sold us out? He claimed to have positively identified the subject, a man called Philip Webb. We checked it out. Philip Webb doesn't exist. Cream was lying to us. He's no idiot. He must know that the Zarathustra secret is worth. No, I think he's made a deal. I think he's made a deal with the monster. Story cannot possibly be true. The story must be true. The cold, unearthly light of certainty begins to glimmer in his mind. From the shadows of doubt, he advances toward it. He, of course, thought it was all an accident, but in fact it was a government plot, because these guys were just too powerful to leave them running around, flying around. And as evil as it sounds, the government in some ways were right. They were wrong about Mike Moran, Miracle Man, but they were completely right about Kid Miracle Man, who has become a complete sociopathic killer. Out of the dark he is coming. The night cowers and cannot conceal him. The night screams and cannot gain his attention. The night burns, and its fires cannot contain him. Assuming the surprise attack fails, I nominate a number of specialists with rocket launchers and the like as our second line of defense. Oh, come on now, Sir Dennis. Rocket launchers. Over in NI, the Patties used them to take out our chaps' tanks. Surely against one man. Seaward, in 1963, we hit this creature with an atom bomb. It didn't work. Seaward, we've got to stop him reaching that bunker. Out of the dark he is emerging. He has a suspicion that he has been kept in the dark far too long. You have heard my story, Mr. Moran. Be assured that it is founded on both personal deduction and upon certain information provided by my former employers. It occurs to me that both of us have excellent reasons to investigate this matter further. You wish to know the truth about your origins? I wish to share that knowledge. I suspect that it may prove valuable to me. I believe that we can be of assistance to each other. It is this belief that has prompted me to risk betraying my employers. It now prompts me to take an even greater risk. I'm going to remove your gag, Mr. Moran. Kimota! Sir Dennis, questions are bound to be asked if the Zarathustra bunker represents such a security hazard. Why isn't it folded in 18 years ago? Why wasn't it folded 18 years ago? I fear the blame must rest with me. I decided to keep the project partly open. I hope to recoup some of Zarathustra's enormous budget. And although the fruits of my labors might ultimately prove the only means we have of stopping this creature, I hope it will not come to that. One monster is more than enough. Remarkable. In the gathering twilight of the room, there stands an incandescent man. Out of the dark he is coming. There are walls, and he does not care about walls. There are men, and the men mean nothing to him. There are snares, and the snares are not even worthy of his contempt. Our penultimate line of defense will be a bomb. Quite a large bomb, I would imagine. Our men will still be in the area, Sir Dennis. They will be aware of the bomb. It will give them a greater incentive to stop him before he reaches. If neither they nor the bomb are able to stop him, it is better there are no witnesses for what must follow. He approaches the bunker. There is something standing in its shadows. Out of the dark of legend, into the harsh lamplight of modern reality. And he is still unbelievable. and unknowable and unnerving. Very well, Mr. Cream. I think I'm prepared to trust you for a little while. Where do we go from here? That is to say, the bunker in which you were unknowingly subjected to the experiments of the spook show is for some reason still standing. It is located in the Cotswold Hills. Mr. Moran, my former employers may have learned of my duplicity by now. They may have time to erect defenses. There could be troops. There could be booby traps. I suppose there could. I don't care. You're not talking to Mike Moran now, you know. Sir Dennis, I believe you're deliberately keeping Oliver and myself in the dark. What are these measures you keep mentioning? Seward's right. You hinted that they were connected to some further yield from the Zarathustra fiasco. It's only proper that we should be told. Oh, certainly. It's proper, gentlemen. It just isn't safe. They ride the razor edge of the wind, the man of light carrying the man of shadows through the freezing sky. Out of the dark he is coming. Not so fast, you Bolshevik blighter. There still stands one who is prepared to defend the Queen and country against your Kremlin masters and their lackeys. Is this some sort of joke? No, sir. It most assuredly is not. Prepare yourself for a trouncing, my sizable Soviet friend. Spare us your coyness, Sir Dennis. You imply that you have spent the years since '63 in duplicating the original Zarathustra experiment? That you produced another monster? Yes. Yes, I have. But the project's originator destroyed many of his notes before he absconded. We only dimly understood the process. There were problems. Oh, God. No more bloody problems. Tell me, Sir Dennis, does this flawed super being of yours have customarily absurd sobriquet? Yes, Oliver, he does. We call him Big Ben. Big Ben, quite an outfit. Essentially a three-piece suit that fits with the same level of skin tightness as a typical superhero costume. Albeit with a rose, cufflinks, a tie, a bowler hat, and the mask. Miracle Man Inside Story. Mr. Cream, it is you I am addressing, sir. It is you to whom I refer. Really, old horse. These antics smack of the daubed face and the ostrich plume. It seems one cannot take the jungle out of the boy after all. What do you say, Mr. Cream? Educated at Rugby, trained at Sandhurst, you read the untranslated novels of Colette and own an original Hockney. Good God, sir, you are practically white. Nice dose of racism. What are you doing, sir? What are you doing back in this place, creeping amongst the night trees and sniffing at the ancestral shadows? You are a professional, an artist in the ways of mortality. You killed the Beast Daddy, laughing as you blew his brains over his epaulettes. You are a man of power. And yet you followed this white LOA, this miracle man who leaves a trail of dead and fish-eyed fellows in his wake. Can it be that you have gone native, Mr. Cream? Mr. Cream, do you at last believe in juju? Great-grandfather passed me down the grease, and the pointing bone. For I have at this late stage opted to become another crazy N-word. From the top secret files of Big Ben, the man with no time for crime. It looked as if this particular Johnny Bolshevik was going to be a tough nut to crack. I recalled the clipped and the measured phrases of Sir Dennis Archer. It's our friends in the Kremlin, Ben. They want the plans to our new Zarathustra death ray, and they've sent a super commie to do their dirty work. His name is Major Molotov, and only you can stop him. But could I? Could I stop this Marxist madman who had already so brutally dispatched of a score of our finest Tommies? I was bally well going to have a go. He had to have a weakness, an Achilles heel. I remembered when I had fought alongside Dr. Thunderbolt against the horrifying being known only as Menace. Menace had kidnapped Doc's beautiful assistant, Valerie. If we hadn't discovered that brute was vulnerable to the common tap water, her doom would have been assured. But we did. The Menace was destroyed, forever. As were all the other fiends who sprang up to take his place, the Crimson Finger, the Sponge, Dr. Panic, and his phantom robot, even Phineas Fisk, the creature with the cobalt brain. One by one they came, one by one they received their just desserts at the dependable hands of the man with no time for crime. This red racketeer would prove no exception. Soon I'd hit upon his weakness, electricity perhaps, or some unknown mineral. Soon I'd uncover his fatal flaw. Then he'd be in trouble. Just hold the line for a sec. Longer. Damn, bloody death and hell. Now the legs look out of proportion. Damn, the deadline's tomorrow. Damn. Process weight. Oh no. I didn't leave the... Yes. I did. I left the top off and it's gone hard. I bloody hate when it goes hard. It must be my body reacting to the limp. Shunting all the chemicals around me, making me feel anxious. Just a nervous thing. Everything's okay. Why is the brush all gungy? Mike, why the hell haven't you come home yet? Where are you? Perhaps if I phoned the paper? No, you'd be annoyed. And anyway, you'll come home soon because you always do eventually. I hope the baby's all right. I'm 36. Around 40, they say you run the greater risk. Mongoloid babies, and no, they ran an amniocentesis. They said it was normal. It hasn't kicked yet. Give it a rest, Lizzie. Everything's fine. Baby Moran's fine. Mummy Moran's fine. Daddy Moran fine. Miracle Man. The perspective on the chair is all wrong. It's Miracle Man's baby. It'll be born with superpowers. No, it'll be born with no arms or eyes and just a horrible screaming mouth that dribbles blood and pus and... So we discovered that she was pregnant in the prior episode, and it was from sleeping with Miracle Man, not Mike Moran, but which created a little bit of an emotional dilemma in Mike's mind. And now she's suffering a lot of the hormonal issues of being pregnant and also all the anxiety. Mike's not there. And she's an illustrator. And Alan Moore started as an artist as well, so he understands, aside from having collaborated so closely with so many artists, he also understands the trials and tribulations of drawing yourself. So, quite capable of describing those anxieties as well. I wish I knew who he was. I wish he'd stop hitting me. I don't want to hurt him. He isn't as powerful as I am, and I think there's something wrong with his mind. Flawless, china blue eyes that never blink and glitter like marbles. He's a psychopath. And he's a superhuman. But where did he come from? First, the hired killer changes sides and tells me of the government plot to murder me. Then he leads me to a bunker up here in the Cotswolds, where he assures me I'll find evidence concerning my true origins as Miracle Man. He tells me to go on ahead. Some soldiers try to cut my throat. Some more soldiers fire rockets and flamethrowers at me. A bomb has exploded underneath my feet. Finally, I'm attacked by a superhuman lunatic in a bowler hat who thinks I'm a communist. Smashes a very large tree over Miracle Man's head, and again, he is just completely invulnerable to it. I could get tired of this. Surrender, Butcher of Leningrad. Surrender or fight like a man. Damn your eyes. All right. And barely even a backhand, and sends him actually rocketing out of the panel. And this is Evelyn Cream up to something, and then suddenly something blasts a tree down next to him. I thought something was trying to kill Evelyn, but instead that is the bowler hat guy. White man's magic. Monogrammed. Mr. Moran. Miracle Man. Miracle Man. But of course, Miracle Man. We have little time. There will almost certainly be backup troops in the area. If you will allow me to blast open the door. I don't think he needs to do that, yes. There's a slight smile. Or bemused look, I should say. And that is a very impressive door that he just crumpled up like a milk carton and tosses over his head. Mr. Miracle Man, wait. There may be traps. There could be. Great God. This crazy bunker of experiments, huge experiments, including this horrific mutation and what looks like a dinosaur and who knows what. And little video image of the old Miracle Man, or like Golden Age period. We arrived on the site of the Zarathustra bunker at 3:40 a.m. This was on the morning of July 9th, 1982. The carnage was horrifying. Most of our specialists were dead, injured, or in deep shock. In light of this, ordering further troops into the area seemed pointless. You must understand that in such extraordinary circumstances, the situation is not immediately clear, and discretion is the best course, hence my own actions. Indeed, it was not until later that we were able to reconstruct what had happened within the bunker from the surviving evidence. My report follows. I hope that you will read it carefully and without prejudice before deciding whether to accept my proffered resignation. I remain yours faithfully, Sir Dennis Archer. Comparing the time of our arrival with that of later events, we've deduced that the experimental superhuman Big Ben regained consciousness at approximately 3:35. As to his state of mind, at this point, I'm afraid we can only guess. Due to his para-reality programming, Big Ben believed the monster to be a Soviet spy named Major Molotov, a deception necessary in order to motivate him. Furthermore, he believed the bunker to contain a prototype death ray, which he had been told Major Molotov was intent upon stealing. Just that one little backhand has really broken up Big Ben's face. At least it took quite a few punches for Kid Miracle Man to turn Miracle Man's face into hamburger. At around 3:35, we believe he awoke, and despite his injuries, made his way back to the bunker, intent upon finishing the fight that he had started. Ooh, not a good idea. As for the monster, an Evelyn Cream, digital recorders in the bunker show that it was breached at exactly 2:39. Once inside, we assume they spent the next half hour simply looking. They would have almost certainly noticed the skeletons of the dead superhuman. Well, that's young Miracle Man. Likewise, the skeletons of the Visitor and the mounted hull fragment of the Visitor's craft. In themselves, however, these exhibits would mean little to the uninformed. In themselves, they would not have provoked a reaction ferocious enough to devastate millions of pounds worth of technology. It is clear, however, that something did. So that dinosaur thing with two heads, the Visitor, apparently is some sort of alien discovery. And this whole concept of Miracle Man being sort of manufactured in this compound by some sort of evil government organization mirrors Alan Moore's concept for V for Vendetta, where V was a prisoner of a very fascist government which tortured him and tormented him and essentially created a monster. Of course, Mike Moran is not a monster. He's still actually a very decent person, but he's just discovering his background and that what they've done to him and to create him, young Miracle Man, Kid Miracle Man, and apparently Big Ben, who is quite a flawed monstrosity himself, so I don't think he's too happy about it. And I think that's safe to assume. We can only assume that it was the videotapes and the documentary evidence contained therein that triggered the monster's apocalyptic outburst. Again, on-site digital recorders inform us that the video monitors were used and that several key sequences of the classified nature were viewed in their entirety. But as to which piece of information should affect the monster so severely, we cannot say with any precision. Remember, we are dealing with a mind that is not human. All we can say is that the master video display was activated at 3:10, that Cream and the monster spent the next 3/4 of an hour studying it, and that at 3:56 the creature known as Miracle Man went suddenly and inexplicably berserk. I would assume he found this, maybe, I don't know. The satellite was blown up with the atomic bomb, but I would assume he found evidence of what they did. They killed young Miracle Man, not Kid Miracle Man, young Miracle Man, I should say. And also, Big Ben should have been arriving around this time, and which would not bode well for Big Ben. But no sign of him so far. The first section of the tape to be viewed according to our reconstruction commenced at 3:10 a.m. and concerned the Zarathustra process itself. And so in the summary, the major points of the process are as follows. Firstly, with what knowledge we have gleaned from our study of the Visitor and its craft, we believe it possible to replicate a human being from a single cell. The Americans and the Chinese are currently believed to be working on something similar. But our process differs in that the replicate has an altered DNA structure. Both its brain and its body are almost perfectly evolved, lending it a wide range of extra-human abilities. It does not, however, possess its own independent consciousness. The next stage is the implanting of two identical infraspatial trigger devices into the brain of the evolved replicate and the brain of its cell donor. Here we see the operations being performed simultaneously upon the brain of our second subject and that of a cellular replicate, designated Young Miracleman. I remind you that this staggering technology is purely that which we have extrapolated from the remains of our unfortunate visitor. So alien DNA, perhaps. The next stage of this displacement of the replicate into infraspace, where it remains connected to its human counterpart by the agency of the implanted trigger device. When the trigger device is activated, the human body is displaced into infraspace, while the replicate body moves into our own continuum. It is at this point that the consciousness of the human form is transferred to that of the replicate. The trigger device is activated by the speaking of a post-hypnotic keyword. In this case, this particular subject, the key word is the name of his senior protege, Miracleman. Oh, God. So, he was implanted with a memory to believe that there was a astrophysicist or some sort, godlike being who had just given him this magical power. But the reality, Alan Moore has given a scientific basis, a scientific explanation. I thought he was just going to go with the sort of golden age, just poetic, license, magical being, whatever. And because there's a lot of golden age sort of deconstruction here. But no, that's a pretty good backstory as to how they created these guys. At 3:22, the videotape was wound forward to a section dealing, amongst other things, the tactical application of Project Zarathustra. Necessity, in the view of the fact that while America currently possesses the atomic bomb, and Russia and China will shortly be similarly endowed, Britain as yet has no such capability. It is our belief that the tactical potential of Project Zarathustra will make all conventional weaponry, including the A-bomb, as obsolete as the slingshot. By way of illustration, here we see the youngest subject, designated Kid Miracleman, in a field test during which he outraced the fastest contemporary jet airplane. And here we see him penetrating a bunker of solid titanium as if it did not exist. Imagine the mega-death potential of such a creature in an international conflict. Or imagine if he turned on you and decided to decimate London. Naturally, in choosing subjects for the Zarathustra experiment, we have not been oblivious to the possibility of public resistance to the concept, and have covered our tracks accordingly. The 3 subjects to date have been young males, the children of deceased Air Force personnel, and have no other surviving relatives. They were chosen simply because their names were available from Royal Air Force files to which Air Force intelligence has full access. Moran's father was in the RAF. He died during the war, and Dickie, I remember that his father had been an Air Force major. Oh God, why didn't we realize what they were doing to our lives? At 3:43, they presumably overwhelmed the tape, and the next section was viewed out of sequence, chronicling as it does the events of 1968. Rather than those of 1954 or 55. And despite the fact that when the projects originator vanished 5 years ago, he took many of his findings with him. It was decided to proceed with the project. Zarathustra. MK2 has not been an unqualified success. Owing to the gaps in our technical knowledge, the result is a flawed superhuman designated Big Ben. The achievable power levels of the Big Ben model are markedly inferior to those of his predecessors of 15 years before. While he can fly, is inhumanly strong and highly resistant to damage. He is possessed of nowhere near the same abilities as the Miracle Man trio. This, however, is not his greatest fault. Due to our limited understanding of the para-reality programming necessary in order to control these remarkable creatures, Big Ben received inadequate conditioning. As a result, his mind became unbalanced. Although this condition makes him ideally suggestible for our purposes, it limits his effectiveness against a rational opponent. That explains who that maniac was outside. But what in God's name is a para-reality programming process? Or an infraspatial brain implant, for that matter? Or a cellular replicate? The idea of the cellular replicate sounds very similar to the currently fashionable cloning process. Cream. This happened in the early 1950s, according to that last tape. In the early 50s, we hadn't even developed a polio vaccine. Wind it back, and let's take a look at what we missed. According to our estimate, this was at roughly 3:46. From what we can gather, Big Ben arrived in the bunker unnoticed at approximately 3:42. It is our opinion that he saw the preceding video sequence in its entirety. It contained much information previously unknown to him, hence his current condition. It may have broke Big Ben's mind. I'm surprised he could actually comprehend it, but apparently he did. I don't know if he went forward and destroyed the whole place or Miracle Man did, but although as I have said, we cannot be absolutely certain which pieces of information preface the monster's eruption. The sequence embarked upon at 3:48 seems a strong contender. The sequence in question describes the para-reality programming process. In order to fully control the thought processes and motivations of these potentially catastrophic creatures, an entirely artificial reality set is constructed. The reality set is then fed directly into their unconscious minds while they lay under the effects of powerful sedatives. Briefly, the process is as follows. The dream world, which we have constructed, is one in which a pseudo-rational explanation exists for these beings and their abhuman abilities. There is the bestower of his powers, as far as he believes. It is a juvenile but effective scenario, much like Golden Age comics, in which the creatures believe that they have been made into superheroes by a semi-mystical being named Guntag Borghelm. As they lay upon the somatic inducer couches, these fantasies are pumped into their sleeping consciousness by our visitor-derived technology. We are thus able to fully test their responses and reactions with a totally safe hallucinatory dry run, rather like a flight simulator. Some of the fantasies we project contain deliberate contradictions. Some contain events to stretch the subject's credibilities to the fullest. We are attempting to determine how our artificial belief system will endure under stress. With creatures of this capability, we can afford no error Thus, our programming has been lengthy and exhaustive. The date of this recording is January 1962, and the creatures have lain dreaming for the last 8 years, their entire existence, a computer-designated fantasy, computer-designed fantasy. In order to explain the finer details of this all-important mind programming, here is the controller and originator of the Zarathustra project. Interesting. And the fact that his whole world, his whole life has been a dream, essentially, altered, faked, has Miracle Man rather infuriated. Dr. Emil Gargunza. Greetings. As you have seen, by employing the technology gleaned from the visitors, his craft, we have completely programmed the minds of these near-divine creatures, providing them in a process with an utterly manufactured identity which is ours to manipulate at will. To wit, the identity of a children's comic book character. Gargunza! It was at 3:56 that the video machine malfunctioned and jammed. It was 3:56 that the monster went berserk. Comic book character. The damage was extensive. Comic book character. Comic book character. We can only assume that after the monster's initial rage had abated, Cream somehow managed to calm him down. For that, at least we can be grateful to him. Whatever the circumstances, Cream and the superhuman vacated the bunker at 4:10 a.m. It only remained for myself and the cleanup crew to move in and pick up the pieces. Report ends. The pieces include Big Ben, who is in emotional tatters. Epilogue. From the top secret files of Big Ben, the man with no time for crime. For a moment, Major Molotov had almost had me fooled with his devilish red propaganda. Luckily, Jack Ketch and Owlwoman, my colleagues from the Bulldog Brigade, arrived just in time. Okay, Fiona, there he is. Approach him carefully. Remember, he's dangerous. Jack Ketch smiled grimly as he told me how the Red Rogue had used a brain beam to make me doubt my own identity, a fiendish trick that oh so nearly worked. Luckily, Owlwoman had brought an ultravest from her mountain fortress, which would drain off the harmful mind-clouding radiation. It was good to have such staunch allies. They're essentially psychiatrists. We've put him in a straitjacket, of course. Presumably one that can contain someone of superpowers. There's a double lock on the clasp. Make sure it's properly fashioned. We don't want this bloody lunatic bursting loose halfway down the M-way. As they helped me from the bunker towards the waiting owl car, they told me that thanks to my delaying tactics, they had been able to prevent Molotov escaping with the death ray. I smiled. It was comforting to know that the Soviet supervillain, despite his powers, owed his defeat to the man with no time for crime. Okay, easy does it. Come on, let's get him fastened in, and then let's take the poor bastard home. 4:38 in the sodium-lit hours before dawn. The great trucks roll south. Some carry breakfast cereal. Some carry ball bearings. Some are empty. And some are not. That's a flashback to the terrorists who were concussed and blinded and burned by Miracle Man's transformation in episode 1 and issue 1. July 10th, 1982. The cleaners arrived early on Saturday morning, crunching through the scorched grass, stepping over the uprooted, shattered trees. Other cleaners had visited this place before them. That was obvious. There were very few remaining bloodstains, and much of the reported wreckage had been removed. The crater was still there. They had kept clear of the door. The massive steel door was still there, although not where it should have been. It should have been sealing the entrance of the bunker rather than lying buckled 40 feet away. They puzzled over that for a moment, but then went in anyway. They didn't know what they were cleaning up, but they knew it was going to take a long time. That's why they came early on Saturday morning, to do cleaning. Saturday morning pictures. This is a bit Dan Dare, all this stuff in it. What'd you reckon they were doing here, then? God knows, bombs. Most likely looking at that hole outside. Here, seen this? What's that, a skeleton? Nah, it's a model. You can see it's a model. There's two of them stuck together. Bloody scientists, like a lot of bloody kids with air-fix kits. I'm not so sure if that's a model. Nice video kit, though. Our missus would go bar me over one like this. Yeah, look at this stuff, eh? All this recreation equipment for a lot of scientists. Who's paying for it all? You and me, mate. That's who. These are cleaners. So they're obviously working class, and they have working class accents. Although I'm surprised they would just let run-of-the-mill guys come in and clean this up. I would fear a little bit for their safety after they finish, but we shall see. Because they certainly can't reveal this to the public or go back to their families and talk about it. Yeah, it makes you want to spit, doesn't it? Hey, they got a load of videos here. Shall I shove one in while we mop this place out? Yeah. Why not have this, they got Driller Killer. I wouldn't mind seeing that again. No titles in any of them. Must be pirate jobs. Just dates. We'll have to take potluck. There, you cross your fingers and hope it's not Bloody Annie or something. Perhaps it'll be I Spit on Your Grave. That was good. Wife aided it. Oh, terrific. It's Mighty Mouse. What a load of drivel. My 4-year-old wouldn't have been able to watch that without weeping. Nah, what's the matter with you? That was great. No, really. It was a good laugh, I thought. Cobblers, give us a hand with this, will ya? It's heavier than it looks. That's because it's real. Just a minute. I just want to slip another one of these on. Oh, come on, Bob. We've got to get this place sorted out by tonight. Only be a second. Hey, here's one that made later than the others. In the 60s, perhaps. You like this one. 1968, 1969. Yeah, perhaps it'll give me something to chuckle over while I'm waiting to be fitted with my rupture belt. Give us a bloody hand. You skiving, Wally? I'm dropping this. Oh, okay. Ah, crap. Oh, sorry. Hey, look at this. I think we're in luck. I think it's the Avengers. Looks like the making of Big Ben. The screen's gone dead. What a ripoff. Yeah, well, it's old Kit in it. Can't rely on old Kit, can you? Can't get the parts. Huh? I was enjoying that. The special effects were good, weren't they, considering when it was made? I don't know. Not as good as Superman. Superman special effects are pretty awful back then, but okay. Well, no. Better in Superman 2. Oh, okay, Superman the movie. Hey, you know the old boy was running this lot, Archer? Well, Sean was telling me he's jacked it. What? Resigned like? Yeah, I suppose Maggie Thatcher found out about his film shows. You know, like them Vice Squad coppers down the smoke. What, porn? What, you reckon the other cleaners had the good stuff away before we got here then? Probably. Must have been something like that, mustn't it? I mean, for a geezer like that to resign, must have been pretty bad, mustn't it? It was Saturday morning. They were cleaning up. They didn't know what they were cleaning up. Yeah, must have. But they knew it was going to take a long time. Literally cleaning up, but it's also going to take the government, the spook show, a long time to clean up this mess, literally and figuratively, and maybe cover it up. And we're back in the special features yet again, interrupting the main event. And I believe that is it. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, that is it. What a shocking conclusion. And you see, that is the end of Miracle Man Book 1, A Dream of Flying. I believe the next book is called The Red King, and is the last of Alan Moore's ventures with Miracle Man before it was turned over to Neil Gaiman and Mark Buckingham. But there are some extras here. These are all, if you can see the bottom here, we just have some original art and some cover of, some of the cover versions. But there were some extras in the middle of the story, and we'll go back and read a couple of those. There were a couple of really good ones. The Cold Warrior story. We'll go back and read those in a special feature just on the extras. But for now, that is the end of Miracle Man Book 1. Yeah, there's one of the extras. And that's it for now. I hope you enjoyed it. I enjoyed reading this. I enjoyed, the entire arc so far. Obviously looking very much forward to the next one. So we'll get on as soon as possible. And thanks very much for reading. Hope you come back for the next episode, and feel free to like, comment, and subscribe as usual. Thanks very much, and that's it. Goodbye.